All right, you ready to talk about True Blood?
Heck yeah.
So, what was your first impression of True Blood? Because I had already seen True Blood. Um, I think I caught it when the last season was coming out, but me and you just watched it like a year ago together.
Yeah, I think a little longer than that. But I mean, the first time I ever saw it was back when it was actually coming on HBO.
Oh, so you did watch it when it was on?
I didn't watch it. I had a family member that watched it, and I would catch it every now and then. But that was how I got introduced to True Blood. And I always just thought it was, you know,
Stupid.
another vampire show or this or that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Vampire Diaries, True Blood, all that stuff was just kind of
Well, you ended up liking Vampire Diaries too.
yeah, but mm, that was because I met you, and I mean,
Right.
you kind of got me into it, but I didn't have any interest in any of those shows before.
So overall, did you like the show then?
Yeah,
You thought
it
it
was
was pretty
pretty good.
good. Yeah.
Um, it was different. I like kind of like the southern twist on the vampires and stuff like that. It wasn't like all high society, hoity-toity, like
Yeah.
Rome or European aristocrat. You know.
Yeah. So when I first started watching it, it seemed like the southern accents are so over exaggerated that it's almost like it's supposed to be satirical or soapy,
Yeah.
but it is an interesting story.
Yeah. I mean, they bring in a lot of interesting characters,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's a lot of characters that there's a large cast, but you're interested. This is one of those shows that surprisingly I felt like you're interested in more than just the main characters. Like there's a lot going on
Oh
with all
yeah.
the side characters, and I
Who
don't know.
who's your favorite character?
Favorite character? That's kind of hard.
I mean, you can have a couple of favorite characters.
Okay,
Like who'd you care about the most? Their storyline.
I liked Alcide.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought he was a badass. Plus, he's a werewolf, and I like werewolves. And I mean, I don't like I felt like there wasn't enough Alcide other than like Sookie's love interest,
Yeah.
there for a little bit, and it was just which the show's not about him and it's not about werewolves and stuff. But I liked Alcide. I like Eric. I
Yeah.
like Eric over Bill.
Me too.
Like Eric,
Me too.
Eric's the better fit. He's the badass. He's the old Viking. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? So like, there's so much that is appealing to Eric.
That was my first introduction to Alexander Skarsgård. That's what made me like him as an actor.
Yeah.
And so now if there's something in like with him in it, I'm like, that's probably gonna be good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the first time I had ever seen him in anything. Um, I really like Lafayette
I
just
did
because
too.
he's a
Oh yeah.
badass, and it's
And
like,
he's so funny.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard not to like him, and his off the rail, just crazy moments where he's yelling at folks when he
Yeah.
beats the shit out of that racist dude.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
Um, other than them,
Who did you not like?
Sookie.
You didn't like Sookie?
Uh, not really. Just she was always in trouble, and I mean, I know
Yeah.
the show is about her. It's about
When
her.
they at first it's like she's always a damsel in distress. Oh, well, I guess that's not true because she saves Bill almost off the rip.
Yeah, but
But there are some moments where she's almost damsel in distress but then there's other moments where she does do her own stuff.
yeah, I really didn't care for anything that was going on with her,
Yeah.
and I didn't care for the whole love thing with Bill, and then she stops loving Bill, and then she's with Alcide, and then she loves Eric, and then
Yeah.
it's just that's too much for me. Just because
So out of all three, between Eric, Alcide, and Bill, who would you have rather her ended up with instead of a faceless stranger at the end?
Alcide.
Really?
Yeah, just because to me he was the best man out of all. Like he was the best one
Yeah.
out of all of them, morally. But
I'm an Eric stan.
Eric's a jackass, but I love
Oh
him.
yeah, but that's part of his appeal.
I mean, yeah.
I did not like Jason, and I did not like Tara.
I I didn't necessarily like Jason,
Mm-hmm.
but I liked his story and the shit that he gets caught
Yeah,
up
but
in.
that's the thing is like he was always in some shit of his
I
own
know,
making.
but that's to me what was more appealing than Sookie's stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't necessarily like Jason any more than I like Sookie, but I like the stories that were going on, like with all that stuff with the Fellowship.
I hated their grand died.
Right
That
off
was
the
rough.
rib, season
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the lady from
Gam Gam.
Twister.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's Gran.
yeah, I know.
It wasn't Gran
I
for
was
him.
just, yeah, I know, but yeah, I mean, she got.
I thought it was interesting that Bill was from Civil War times and he spoke at the meeting
Yeah,
about what happened during he was a imagine that. Like imagine you're kind of a history buff. Imagine meeting someone from that
I
time
mean, yeah,
that's still
that'd be
alive to
pretty
tell you about
crazy.
it. Yeah, that would be crazy.
All the questions you could ask and what really happened instead of just what is put out there for us to believe happened.
Right.
Not that history is a conspiracy, but you never really know what actually happened. Just
Right.
saying, just saying. But I mean, who did you not like?
That's what I said. I didn't like Tara or Jason.
That's it. Just Tara and Jason.
Yeah.
Tara, okay, we can get on Tara a little bit. Tara, to me, was such an up down emotional roller coaster because I hated that whole stint to where she was just off the rails, fucked up, doing whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then the other half, she's just trying to parent
Her
Sookie the
mom.
entire
Well, and
well,
her
and her
mom.
mom, yeah. But so
She was just so angry, and it was like she was just always yelling at somebody and like telling them what to
yeah,
do.
she's real authoritative.
Yeah, and I don't know. Her character wasn't appealing to me. I didn't like hate her, I guess, but
I mean, she didn't deserve to die.
no. But I don't know. The whole thing with Marianne, like, okay, so as the show as a whole, there were certain things that I didn't like. The stuff with Marianne wasn't terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of weird, but it was so interesting. The biggest part of the show that I don't think that I liked was when Bill was stuck with like the authority.
Uh huh.
I didn't like that whole stint when he was there and he
Like
became God
Lilith
Bill.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
that
Like
whole
he,
stint. I was so not interested in that. And it was I haven't read the books because True Blood is based off a book series by Charlene Harris.
yeah,
But it almost felt like they were just what is the craziest shit I can make up for this show? Like that's what it felt like sometimes. Like
yeah,
Sookie being a fairy. That was
yeah. It was
so
kind of left
which
field.
I mean in that scene is kind of funny and it's one of those that's it's almost seems satirical because when she finds out she's a fairy, she was like, "That's fucking lame."
Yeah,
And it's like, "Yeah, it's really fucking lame."
yeah. I just different. I don't know. To me, the show's really up and down.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain seasons that I like more than others. Like the Marianne stuff, it was cool. Like to me, I thought that the story itself was cool
Yeah,
with
and I
that.
really liked Eggs and Tara's relationship. I mean, I know that went
Yeah,
sideways, but I liked that storyline to begin with. And I liked how Marianne just like came out of nowhere. It's like early season 2, there's these deaths, you don't really know what's going on.
yeah.
But then when they go in and Lafayette meets Jesus and all that stuff with
The
Marnie and the
cult and stuff like
Brujas,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's that was
I say cult. It wasn't really. It was more like a
it was a
den of
coven.
witches.
It was a
Yeah,
coven, yeah. And so all that stuff, it was almost like it's too much. Like you think Marnie's gone, and then she takes over Lafayette's body, and then at one moment Jesus is like possessed, and it's just like a back and forth, and it's almost like how many times can somebody be possessed before we've done it 100 times in this show?
yeah. That's a pretty sad death though.
Oh
That
yeah,
freaking Marnie slash Lafayette kills Jesus.
yeah, that was
Oh
fucked.
man, like Jesus didn't deserve that. He's a good guy, which most people morally good in this show end up dead.
Yeah,
So, because R.I.P. my boy Alcide.
I liked the Fellowship of the Sun
Yeah,
when Jason's in the church and he's like super gung ho, and then
yeah,
he's
that's one of my favorite
not
parts.
anymore. And
Y-
Reverend Newland. gets his in the
Whew.
end. He
Oh
gets
yeah,
turned.
and he's bitching about not having blood, and then he
Yeah.
gets killed by his ex-wife. Well, he didn't get killed by his ex-wife. He thought Eric kills him.
I'm not sure. I just know that he does kind of like haunt Sarah at the end. Like Sarah sees him.
She gets what she deserves.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck Sarah.
Yeah.
Getting locked up, being used as a damn what cattle, pretty much for
Basically,
the
because
antidote.
she's the antidote for Hep V.
I no, I really liked uh Jason during that part, like when he was
Yeah.
infiltrating and stuff like that, and all that shit was fucked up because he was like sleeping with Sarah, and it was just the
And
whole
because you
show's a
were
mess.
waiting for Revlin Newland to catch them. Like
Yes,
you were just waiting and you were so on edge. You knew that something bad was going to happen.
yeah. And another character I actually did like, but again, he had his ups and downs, was Sam. I actually
Yeah.
liked Sam.
I, mm,
It was kind of creepy
yeah, for
at
sure.
first, like with Sookie and stuff like that, because it's like this man's like 40 years old, and I'm pretty sure Sookie's in her like 20s. Like, I mean, whatever, you know.
I mean, they're both consenting adults, but it was more creepy to me outside of age just because it almost seemed like he could have been stalker level.
Yeah,
Like, and especially when she meets Bill, he is not for that.
no, not at all.
So I don't know. He comes back and forth, and it really depends on like if he's dating somebody or not. And then you find out he's a shapeshifter.
That was cool.
Yeah,
I actually like that he was, and that's really cool when that's how they kill him, Marianne,
yeah,
because he's the actual bull that's supposed to be sacrificed, and he stabs her. That was a cool scene.
yeah. It was really cool.
And then all the crazy shit with his family showing up, and
Yeah.
his brother and stuff like that.
Well,
And
he was already connected to Marianne from before.
right,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, his little brother got on my nerves. Not
well,
that he deserved to die, but
no, I mean he got what he got gotten.
I liked how the show you go into it thinking it's vampires. When you get vampires, most of the time you get werewolves.
Right,
But you got a variety of things in the show. Fairies,
everything.
witches,
Yeah,
the shapeshifters.
yeah. And I liked how they set up the hierarchy for the vampires.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't your typical. I guess you'd say typical. It wasn't like it was just like one thing. It was like they were all tiered down. Like they had the king of Mississippi, the queen of
Yeah, that
Louisiana,
was really cool.
like all that stuff was pretty cool. And uh what's his name? Russell?
Yeah. Russell Edgington.
That I ain't gonna lie. Hated the character, but it made such good television
Oh
because
yeah.
that dude did a phenomenal job playing that crazy ass fucking killer. And I liked his entire story. And then
Yeah, it was really, it changed the series took a turn when he killed that news anchor on live TV.
yeah.
It's one of those things where you're like looking at the screen like, "Oh my god, this is going to change everything."
Yeah. But and then Bill at one point becomes what, the king of Louisiana.
Mhm. I know you know this, but I wrote a paper over this show in early college before
Hmm.
me and you got back together. And it was basically over how True Blood uses its characters to like kind of mimic southern stereotypes with racism and homophobia.
Yeah.
And it was actually my favorite paper I ever wrote, and it was really good. I
Really?
actually got a good
I
grade
was about
on
to say,
it.
what'd you make on it?
Yeah, a good grade. Like I'm an A.
Really?
Yeah, but it is interesting to look at it from that point of view because everything gets thrown onto the vampires, but
Hmm.
there's, racism, and then there's, they're looking for vampire rights and the Vampire Rights Amendment and all of that, and it kind of mimics like things that have gone on in the past in our country in real life.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about True Blood is because it's not just another, oh well, vampires are a secret, this or that. It's
Yeah.
like vampires are a part of society, like, and people are now having to learn how to coexist with them. And there's a lot of issues with it. I mean, that's the entire show is just vampire rights and issues and what's going on and
Yeah.
who wants power, and that's like Russell's crazy ass trying to take over for vampires as a whole, and it's just
Yeah, and it's usually in vampire stuff there is like a head vampire somewhere, like there's a creator
Yeah.
that has a line, but you never see it be politically motivated, like where there's kings of the country or the states and
Right.
like them lobbying Congress to get
Yeah.
rights and stuff like that. But another aspect too that I liked is the way that they explored vampirism and they showed, because if I had to pick like a favorite thing, it would probably be vampires. It always has been.
Yeah.
And so, but I like how like there's always the you have to be invited in, but you can redact it. And so like when Sookie tells Bill to get out, he is forcibly pushed out of her
Yeah.
house. There's stuff like that that's really cool. Or like when Bill had to turn Jessica, it was the whole process and she had to be buried and dig her way out, and all of that was pretty cool too to see it broken down into the way vampires work in that universe.
Well, and it's cool how they pull from different universes when it comes to that. Like they took this or they took that and they made it their own when it comes to different stuff like that. Like most of the time you don't, I mean, in certain shows they do it to where vampires have to be invited in, or movies they got to be
Yeah.
invited in, but I don't know, it's different. Like when he, like you said, when he gets retracted
Yeah.
and he just zooms out of the house, or like the way the silver burns.
Right.
Like they literally can't move if there's like silver on them and stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't know. And wooden stake, they
Yeah, I
explode.
like how they explode. It's so gross.
But and I mean, like you said, it was cool just to see those type of things.
Okay, do you remember the girl that Jason, speaking of explosions, the girl that Jason was dating that they would do V together?
Yes.
I can't remember her name because she was so early on, but they trapped that vampire guy, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. The old
Jason
dude.
befriends him and she stakes his ass.
Yeah.
That is one of the roughest scenes because you start to get attached to him too.
Yeah, because he's a decent. He's
He's
just a
a
normal dude. Like,
Yeah, and that's rough. But it's so gross when they explode and it's all over you.
yeah, and it's crazy. Like, you brought up the whole like them doing V.
Yeah,
How like vampire blood is like.
a drug.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like it's like the heroin of True Blood,
yeah,
and you see issues with that through different characters, like when Lafayette's like hooked on it and stuff like that,
hmm
and it's I don't know. I mean, going back and forth, like you said, between bringing like real life stuff into like a fantasy world, it was just a cool comparison.
yeah. Because it's not just vampire blood too. It's Sookie's blood because
Oh
she's
yeah,
Fae.
makes them all.
They can walk in the sun when after they drink her blood
Yeah,
and different stuff like that. So it is cool, and especially with fairies, you don't see a lot of fairy stuff.
yeah,
Like I know that there are things that have to do with fairies and the fae, and that Mortal Instruments series, they have I think they're called like the Sealies or something, but it's basically fays, but you don't see a lot of that mainstream on television, like stuff about fairies.
yeah. I'll be honest.
I mean, I know a lot of people are not necessarily
Yeah, I
interested in
was.
it, but it's so untouched that it was interesting to see a concept built around it where their blood can do things. They do have powers.
Yeah, which that was a cool twist at the fact
Yeah.
that her blood can let them walk in sunlight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had to do something because they had to make her, vampires were after her because of it. They had to do something like that.
Did you feel like at any part through the whole series that it was just kind of like filler or dragged?
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
I kind of felt like the whole, which I guess it had to happen, but the whole thing with like Warlow
Yeah. I was going to bring that
and
up.
how he like tricks her the entire time, and then he ends up being the bad guy, but a long time ago Sookie was promised to marry him, and it was just
It is kind of jacked up to think that her family did that to her. But on the same note, yeah, like I said, I haven't read the books. Maybe the books were written that way.
yeah.
But there were a lot of things that felt like filler. And it just came out of nowhere. Like they just had to add something. Kind of like Terry. Terry and
My
Arlene
boy
are
Terry.
doing perfectly fine. He started to relax from his PTSD and everything. And then all of a sudden it ramps up. And maybe PTSD works like this. I don't know. I've never had PTSD. But he all of a sudden is having visions of a guy he killed when he was in the army, a buddy,
Hmm.
and then he decides to just kill himself through. but he doesn't want to just kill himself. He hires somebody to kill him for him so that Arlene can get his life insurance money
Right.
as a debt owed to a guy he killed in the Marines. It's just, did that really have to happen? Like, it
No.
was like they just had to kill somebody off. So
Right.
they,
It's like to keep the show
yeah,
relevant. It's like,
yeah,
hey, let's kill off another major character,
right,
and that's the way I felt about season 7 when they killed Tara off, and then
yeah,
they kill Alcide off, and it's just like they could have died at any point through the entire series, and they both just get killed because they get shot. Like it's
right.
just a thing. I don't know. Like,
Well, so a lot of people were upset with the ending where she is just with a no name person and she's pregnant.
right?
How did you feel about the way that that ended?
It was boring.
Do you think that she should have ended up with somebody instead as the ending? Like one of the
Either
three
ended up
guys?
with
I mean, you've already said that you thought that she should be with Alcide. That's like your pick.
yeah, I know, but I mean, like I said, they kill him off, and then it's just kind of like and the only reason I felt like she should be with Alcide is because the time that she was with Alcide, like she seemed like
She
decent
was
and
doing
normal,
good.
and
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
there wasn't any issues. So why don't you be with that guy? Eric's always a wild card. I feel like she couldn't necessarily end up with Eric
Yeah.
because of who he is and what he is and stuff. And
And
Bill's just
well,
the
Bill backstabbed her. Bill was like,
right.
he was watching her for, was she the queen of Louisiana or was she
I think
above
so.
that?
She was the. I think she was, or the girl that he was spying for. That was the Queen of Louisiana.
Okay. Well, who
Yeah,
was Russell Edgington then?
he was the King of Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but he wanted it all. He wanted all the territory.
Yeah. But, he was spying on her for that woman and he he was very self-interested sometimes and I don't feel like he was the better choice.
No, and
It
that's
was it
why.
was almost kind of like a Vampire Diaries thing, like a Stefan and Damon thing,
Yeah,
where at least Damon and Eric are upfront about who they are, like you know what you're getting with them. Whereas Bill and Stefan they try to be like the good guy and like you know
they always have a dark side or
right
this or that. Yeah,
right like
shit
when
gets old.
Stefan becomes the Ripper and they go through all
Yes,
that. It's the same thing.
you're right. It's absolutely the same thing, and a lot of these shows tend to repeat themselves when it comes to that.
Not that I don't fall right into it. I like both of the
I mean,
shows,
yeah,
but
like I said, and all in all, I enjoyed True Blood. Just like anything that
yeah,
you can pick apart, there's just some stuff that you're just like, this probably could have been done differently, or
yeah,
this person didn't have to die, or I don't know. I felt like everything has to end,
right,
and there's not many shows that we watch now that we actually enjoy the endings to.
yeah.
Like honestly, Breaking Bad was probably like one of the better endings to me out
Yeah.
of the shows that we've
But
watched.
that kind of show is a rarity because it was perfectly pieced together and it ended when it was supposed to. There
Right.
wasn't really any filler in that. That story was just what it was.
Well, and it only lasted 5 seasons.
Right.
You know.
I really feel like we could have done without season 7.
Oh, I agree.
It was nothing but tying up loose ends.
Yeah. So why
For
not
but it was
just
a whole season of tying up loose ends instead of it being like the last 2 episodes. It was an
right?
entire season of that.
You should have just made season 6 have like 2 extra episodes to where you can
Right.
just put everybody in, say your goodbyes, and
Call it a
whoop de
day.
do. Because
Yeah.
nothing really happens in season 7.
No, and a lot of it is focused around
Them just finding Sarah, right?
well, what's her name? The girl that works for Eric.
Oh, I can't remember her name. I know who you're talking
Look
about.
it up. Look it up because it's gonna drive me crazy.
All right.
She's one of my favorite characters too, just because she's got so much attitude, and then especially after she turns Tara, I kind of like how their relationship was.
Yeah. Well, I kind of liked her just because she was like,
A
kind of,
voice of reason too.
yeah, well, she was just kind of an asshole
Yeah,
about everything to everyone.
yeah.
She is, Pam.
Pam,
That's who it was.
golly, yeah. So it's focuses around like Pam trying to find Eric. That's
Yeah.
what a majority of those episodes are. And then when she finds him, she has to convince him to save himself. And then they have to find Sarah. And it's just a lot of the same shit.
It literally, this entire show is somebody convincing someone else to stay alive or save them or do
Yeah.
this or do that. All of it's an entire beg fest because that's what I feel like everybody does.
I wasn't unhappy with Bill choosing to die.
No,
I
I feel
felt
like that
like
was
that
okay.
made sense for his character.
Yeah.
It did not make sense to me for Eric to just accept his fate. Eric doesn't strike me as the type.
No, but he struggled so much after Godric died and
Yeah,
he was dealing with all that and
I guess that's true. Well, and his sister died too.
yeah, his sister
Sister
that
that he
he was
slept with.
too close to.
Yeah, but he was dealing with that nonetheless. It wasn't a biological sister, just to
Yeah,
be
it was
clear.
just the
It was
Godric or turned
turned
both
both
of
of them.
them.
Yeah, but yeah, I was happy with the way that Bill died. It made sense, and honestly, a lot of people were unhappy with the ending, with her ending up with a no-name person. But at the same time, so much happened throughout all of these seasons that
Yeah.
if I tried to picture her with any of the three of them,
You can't.
it her character wouldn't have.
Right.
And so I guess it should have ended that way. I know a lot of people were unhappy with that decision, but
Yeah.
it kind of made sense.
Yeah, I just like I was saying, there's not many shows that I enjoy the endings to.
Yeah.
And if it had to end, yeah, I guess it ended okay. It was just kind of like it ended with Eric and Pam doing their own thing with, the new blood and everybody else is just living hunky dory. Like all this shit's happening and everyone's just fine, which I mean, I guess they would be at the end, but
Yeah. I mean, Jessica and Hoyt got back together.
I did like that.
Yeah,
I liked
finally.
that at the beginning. I
Yeah, I did
hated the
too.
whole thing to
Me
where
too.
they had to sit there and back and forth with like,
When she glamored, is it called
yes,
glamoring
I
in
didn't.
this show?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much what happens.
Yeah, but is that a Vampire Diaries thing?
No, I think Glamored is
Is
what
True
that she
Blood
does. Yeah,
getting them crossed over a little too much? But she has to do that and take away his memory of her. I hated that. I hated that so much because Hoyt was a favorite of mine too.
that's because Hoyt, out of everybody in the entire show, was probably the morally best character.
Yeah,
There was nothing wrong with Hoyt at all. He was
yeah,
just a good guy.
and he really loved Jessica.
Yes. And
But then
old Jason.
he was dating Bridget at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and Jason ends up with her.
You
And
gotta,
at the end, though, they have 3 kids because they're sitting at the table at Sookie's house.
it was almost like they just had to throw a bone
Yeah.
to Jason. It was like, all right, let's put everybody back to where it's like moving pieces. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's put these two back together. We might as well, we have an extra girl here. Let's just throw that one with Jason
Yeah.
and everybody
When
can
I
just be
felt like
happy.
it made sense, though, for Sam to leave with Nicole.
I'm trying to remember who Nicole is.
She comes in later on in the series. I mean, you just have to look up her actor to see what she looks like. But they leave, and he gives Merlots to Andy, and it becomes Bellfleur's.
Okay. Yeah.
And when Bill dies, he leaves his place to Andy as well,
Right.
with the agreement that Jessica and Hoyt can live there, and they pay $1 a month to live there. So Andy really came out on top after everything he went through, especially with Marianne, during that time period.
His little fairy
daughters,
babies.
yes. When he's dating Holly, who was in on the Coven witchcraft too.
Right.
So he has been through the most, probably, as just like a regular human.
Yeah.
He is always exhausted.
That and dealing with damn Jason most of the time.
Yes.
Having to pick up after him and all the crazy shit he's getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it. Yeah, Jason's really not a good character. He's kind of a piece of shit.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
But anybody else we didn't talk about? There's Arlene.
She was okay. She was kind of annoying. Renee.
Yeah,
shit was.
I mean, he's over with in the first season, but you were not expecting for Renee to be the killer.
You did not expect Renee to. Yeah. That shit was crazy.
Yeah.
And then how like it's Renee's baby.
Right.
Oh god.
And then she's with Terry.
So many good people just end up dead.
Yeah. And then Tara's mom, how she makes her change and marries the Reverend. But she's still not like fully a more decent person.
Yeah, no, I just there were so many people I could have done without.
Yeah.
But again, it made for good television, so
I guess in that way, it's kind of why some people describe it as like a soap opera esque show because there's such a wide variety of characters that each get their own story time.
yeah.
It's not like a main five or something like that.
Well, and I thought the series did a good job of splitting it up between different seasons. It
Yeah.
wasn't like there was 7,000 things going on with this person, that person,
Right.
this person, that person, and then you're introduced to new people as the series went on. So I think it did a good job just blending it all together in the end.
Yeah.
But I know I'm missing something. I know that there's like something else.
Well, there's all the stuff with the werewolves, you know. Like um the daughter
Yeah.
and that Sam tries to protect and the grandma gets involved and all that stuff which is how basically Sam's brother dies because he goes in there,
Yes.
he goes so far with the shape shifting that he can turn into a human. And he becomes Sam and he goes in there and they beat him to death and come to find out it was his little brother, not him.
Yeah. But I think at the time, if I remember correctly, the show makes you think that it's Sam.
Yeah, at first.
And then you're like, "Oh my god, they just kill Sam like that?"
Well,
And
it's
then
kind of up in the air, like you were unsure because you saw him turn into Sam previously.
that's because his brother got what he deserved. He was a dirty dog.
Yeah.
Sleeping with Sam's girl like that, and then just
Right.
he got what he deserved. Bastard. I like how they didn't try to go over the top with like the werewolves. It wasn't some like crazy thing. They literally
Yeah.
just turn into wolves.
Yeah.
Because this show has, I mean, it's all supernatural, but there's a fine, I feel like, line there between like them growing into like gargantuan, like
Yeah.
walking beasts, you know?
Yeah.
It was just a good fit for
Well,
them to be wolves.
I like that sometimes, but sometimes if you don't have a big enough budget, it just ends up looking stupid.
Like really ugly CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as far as werewolves, like there's some 80s stuff like Silver Bullet. I feel like that's cheesy now, but for the time it was really good.
Right.
But and then like in Twilight is kind of weird to me how they're regular wolves but they're huge.
Huge. I kind of like that concept though.
You do?
I like the wolf. Like it's a werewolf is just a giant wolf. Like I picking from Twilight here. I actually enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah.
And it felt like it leveled the playing field with vampires being super strong. I mean, the wolves got to be big enough to take on
That's true.
the vampires and stuff like that. That is, I felt like they could have made the wolves a little bit bigger in.
Well, you know, in Twilight they're not technically werewolves either.
Right.
I didn't think about that, but they're shapeshifters. That's just their one form.
Right.
So I guess that makes sense.
But maybe you could have made the wolves a little bit bigger and
Or maybe a little bit more scarier.
Yeah, something just to add to them because
To where they don't just turn into little wolves.
Yeah, they're like little
dogs
running
like
around.
little coyotes.
Yes.
Yeah. As far as werewolves though, I have to say it's getting to be an older movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming up on 20 years, I'm sure. But Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
Lupin's werewolf.
That's a creepy werewolf.
That is the creepiest werewolf. And to me, it's like perfect. Like that's what it should look like.
I disagree.
What?
Don't get me wrong, I like Lupin's werewolf.
Yeah.
But we're talking werewolves. I really, really like the Lycans in Underworld.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Not the first Underworld because it looks kind of rough, but I think it's the third one, The Rise of the Lycans. the way that they make them look in that,
They stand up on their
yeah,
hind
they're
legs, right?
huge.
And but
Yeah.
they're still look like wolves that walk. They're kind of like bear wolves,
Yeah, they
like giant.
run. I mean, they still run
Yeah,
on all fours, but yeah, they're huge.
yeah, that's true.
And they look badass. Which, I mean, you got a big enough budget, you can make anything look cool, but
Yeah.
that and one more werewolf thing. The werewolf in the movie, which this is an older movie too. I thought that the werewolf in or the werewolves in the movie Van Helsing
Uh huh.
looked really cool too.
I
They're
haven't
actually
seen that since I was a kid, so I don't remember what they look like exactly.
his werewolf that Hugh Jackman turns into in
Uh
the
huh.
end. He's probably my favorite looking werewolf, and I mean he's huge. I mean, in that movie they go over the top. I mean they grow to be like Goliaths in that movie,
Yeah.
but I don't know. He just looks really cool, and Dracula looks real fucked up in that movie. So, but we're not. We can do that for another time. But
Yeah.
oh no, I give True Blood.
Are we doing loots?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I feel like I give everything an 8, but I give it. I'll give it a 7.5. 7.5 loots.
Okay. I was gonna say 7.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely worth a watch. I would recommend it if you haven't seen it.
Yes, I would definitely watch it.
Anything else you'd like to say about True Blood?
One thing I did really like, and this is going like doing it backwards here. I thought that one of the coolest scenes in True Blood was literally the opening scene to the entire series. And it kind of looped you in and it shows you the
Where
way
those
society is.
kids are going into the
Yes. When
gas
the
station.
kids are driving and they're being reckless and they go
Yeah.
into the gas station and they're talking shit to the redneck dude that ends up being a vampire because he just flashes his teeth because they're talking shit between each other and they just run out scared shitless.
Yeah.
And then he sets the 6-pack of True Blood on the table. It was pretty cool. And it kind of real like that right there as an opening scene just reeled me in. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is going to be pretty good."
Yeah.
So, but no. Like I said, definitely give it a watch. It was
Yep.
a pretty great show.
Yep.
So,
All right. Well, you want to close us out?
I mean, sure. Deuces.
Deuces.
Watch True Blood.